All right, everyone. Hello. So this is Khalid from Threads, and right now we're going to talk about the flotilla that was headed to Gaza with the goal of breaking the siege on Palestinians in Gaza. And the Israeli military has just raided the flotilla, and they have arrested the passengers on board. So there were 12 passengers, including Swedish climate activist Greta Thunberg and Palestinian-French European Member of Parliament Rima Hassan. But I want to return the focus to Gaza and talk about why this flotilla even existed, what the objective of it was, what Gaza is, and what is happening. And this is about before what's been happening from 2023. Israel has been ordering for this flotilla to be stopped. What is a flotilla? First of all, a flotilla is a fleet of ships or boats. Israel's blockade has had a blockade on Gaza, which is a territory, a Palestinian territory. So in Palestine, we have the occupied Palestinian West Bank. We have historic Palestine, which is today called Israel, where it's built on the erasure, on the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians in 1948, Palestinians that were expelled, including my dad's family, who were expelled from the city of Ramle. And then we have Gaza, where most of the population of Gaza are Palestinians who were expelled from historic Palestine in 1948 and who are denied the right to return to their homes and who can't leave because they are under a blockade. So, where people cannot enter, people cannot leave. So, Israel has imposed a blockade on Gaza in 2007. So, since 2007, now it's 2024, this blockade has been imposed. Gaza is the most densely populated place in the world, and it is mostly composed, as I said, of refugees expelled by Israel in 1948. The area of Gaza is 365 square kilometers. Compare that to Toronto, which is 630 square kilometers, or to Ottawa, the capital of Canada, which is 2,779 square kilometers. But Gaza is a population of almost 2.5 million people, most of whom, again, are refugees. And so, what is a siege? Simply put, a siege is when a military surrounds a place and cuts off supplies to this place to bring those inside it to a surrender. According to the United Nations, Gaza was deemed unlivable in 2020. Now let's go over some statistics of Gaza. And this is from before 2023. Gaza had contaminated drinking water, a collapsed healthcare system, and constant bombardment. Why? Israel claims that it constantly claims that it is fighting Hamas. And when it bombs a school, it says that the school was holding missiles by Hamas. It was a storage for Hamas missiles. When it bombed a hospital, it said that Hamas was operating under the hospital. When it bombed a mosque, it says that Hamas was operating inside a mosque. But really, the goal in the end for Israel since 1948, long before Hamas came to existence a few decades ago, is the erasure of Palestinians. Israel is not bombing Gaza. It's not doing what it's doing in Gaza. Has not cut off its electricity and targeted its healthcare system, all to eliminate Hamas. It is to eliminate the existence of the indigenous population, because in the end, this is a settler colonial entity, a European settler colonial project, just like Canada, like Australia, like New Zealand. This is ultimately what it is. The goal is to fully erase Palestinians, whomever they are. And so Israel has used collective punishment, disproportionate force, and has violated international laws left, right, and center. But it seems the world that like to parade and talk about international law and their importance when it comes to other regimes and situations completely turn a blind eye to international law when it comes to Palestine and to Palestinians. Before 2023, Palestinians only got 4 hours of electricity per day. Palestinians, I believe this was around 2018, there was the March of Return. Palestinians would go to the fence where Israel has built this wall, blocking Palestinians from being able to return home. So it's the territory of Gaza. They have built this big wall and Palestinians would go protest at this wall, demanding the right to return home. And the Israeli military just shot and killed so many Palestinians, including a Canadian doctor who was there to treat Palestinians who are injured from the Israeli military shootings. So there was the March of Return. During the pandemic, Palestinians in Gaza, Palestinians everywhere, but especially Gaza, were deprived of vaccines, while Israel was the country getting its population vaccinated the fastest in the world. Palestinians were amongst the last in the world to get vaccinated because of this was a term that was created during the pandemic, the COVID apartheid. And Gaza suffered the worst as a result of this Israeli blockade, which suffocates the territory, the population inside, and deprives them of not only food, but medication, electricity, everything that you can think of. In 2010, so 3 years after Israel has imposed this blockade on Gaza, there was there was a Gaza Freedom Flotilla organized by the Free Gaza movement and a Turkish rights group which sought to break the siege and to carry humanitarian aid to Gaza. There was 10,000 tons and $20 million worth of humanitarian aid. Some of the ships were sabotaged by the Mossad in advance. Could you imagine? Israel killed 10 people, humanitarian people, trying to break the siege on Gaza in this event. And all the media recordings of over 700 passengers involved in this flotilla were stolen, held by Israel, so that the world doesn't see what exactly happened and transpired in their raid on this humanitarian flotilla. The UN condemned Israel's actions, said that the force that they used in 2010 was brutal and disproportionate. And then eventually, the Israeli Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, in a phone call to the Turkish President Erdogan, said that he's sorry and that he apologizes for what the Israeli military did. And the Turkish president, who is probably the biggest hypocrite snake leader in the world, accepted his apology. And the reason I say snake is because so many people in the Arab Muslim world, especially before October of 2023, saw Erdogan as this amazing person who cares so much for Muslim Arab causes globally, or specifically Muslim causes. But Erdogan, I think people started to become more critical and realize his truth after October of 2023, because Turkey is one of Israel's biggest trading partners, biggest partners in defense and many different things. And in fact, over 40% of Israel's oil comes from Azerbaijan through Turkey. Yeah, of course, Erdogan, in the public setting, accepted the apology from Netanyahu to continue being together in bed. The current Freedom Flotilla coalition, if you have a look at their website, it says that they're a grassroots, people-to-people solidarity movement working to end the siege on Gaza. They state 3 major objectives. The first is to publicize the complicity of global actors who are enabling the blockade. So whether this is the United States, which gives about $4 billion a year to the Israeli military so that it murders and ethnically cleanses Palestinians. And then another objective is to show the people of Gaza that people around the world and organizations care, see them, and are doing what they can to support them. So it's like moral support. And the last is to educate people around the world about Gaza and the blockade. So quickly, actually amazing, this page, the Freedom Flotilla Instagram account, for example, I saw surpassed 1 million followers, and it came so quick. People have been watching this, and the Israeli military and the Israeli government, of course, has seen how people have been watching this and how fast this has grown and caught the world's attention. And for this reason, the Israeli military began its separate propaganda operations to counter the exposure that this Freedom Flotilla has brought to what Israel's doing to Palestinians. And so we have seen them try to call this the Selfie Flotilla. The Israeli military has tried to call those on this ship, including climate activist Greta Thunberg, who's been celebrated by Western leaders in the past for her climate advocacy, but suddenly shunned for her advocacy about Palestinians. They've tried to call her a supporter of Hamas and released a video of kids going on a boat. saying they're going to go to the flotilla. But this tells you the incredible impact of this specific Freedom Flotilla coalition. Also, I want to talk about what was on this boat. So there were 12 volunteers. Again, we mentioned Swedish climate activist Greta Thunberg, Rima Hassan, the French Palestinian European member of parliament. And then there's also different people of different nationalities, including Brazilian and others. Just a few other points to note. This boat was in international waters. Israel has no legal right to go and to board and arrest the people on this boat, the humanitarian volunteers. Also, Gaza internationally is not part of Israel. The waters surrounding Gaza, Israel has no right. It is not its territory, it has no right to control those who are going to Gaza. This flotilla had the full legal international right to go and provide humanitarian aid to the people of Gaza, as long as the Palestinians were receptive to it, which they were. Another important point is that, a sad point, is that what we see, what this flotilla exposes is, where have you seen in the world civilians risking their lives time and time again, going on boats to try to liberate an imprisoned people? Where have you seen civilians going on boats, for example, to Nazi Germany? Have you seen people going on boats to Ukraine? No, because we saw there was governments and countries around the world that are trying to liberate the people oppressed and working together. But the situation with Palestine is different. No government, we've seen, of course, some governments make certain decisions, condemnations of Israel, but no government has taken the actual steps of sending the military in to break the siege on Gaza, to liberate Palestine, like we do with other situations. We have not seen governments support militarily Palestinian resistance. We have not seen, for instance, the Spanish government deliver weapons to Palestinian resistance, just like they do by delivering weapons to Ukrainian resistance. This flotilla exposes how, because in this unique situation, the whole world has abandoned Palestinians and has allowed the brutal European settler colonial regime, the Israeli Zionist state, to do whatever it wants to Palestinians live on our video feeds. Civilians have said that's it, and we will take action. And this is exactly what this Freedom Flotilla was. Civilians risking their lives because globally countries refuse to uphold international law. Ultimately, I think the people on this flotilla, I did not believe that this flotilla will make it to Gaza. And I think they knew that. That's what I wanted to say. And the reason I say that is because the Israeli military literally in 1967 bombed, killed, and injured more than 200 US soldiers on the USS Liberty incident. You could look up the Al Jazeera video. It's almost an hour long on YouTube for free that talks about this event in detail. I also have a little quick video where I talk about it on my Instagram account. And if the Israeli military managed to do that and not only get away with it, but that the result was an increase in military funding for it by the United States, they were gifted for killing American soldiers. Do you think Israel cares and thinks it won't get away with killing civilians who are going because they care about Palestinians and trying to break the siege and expose Israel for its concentration camp that it is running in Gaza, that it has built in Gaza, where it's holding Palestinians in an effort to erase them? That, I think, is the biggest success of this flotilla. It is exposing how Gaza is in fact a concentration camp. What is a concentration camp? A concentration camp is a place that is used for the internment of politically targeted people on the grounds of national security or for exploitation or punishment. With Israel, it's all of these things. Israel uses the people in Gaza. It constantly says that this blockade, siege, whatever you call it, is for national security purposes, because Hamas. They are Hamas. Hamas is here, Hamas is there. We have to bomb. We can't send electricity here. We have to limit the food supplies because apparently Hamas is eating all the food. And so we have to starve the population, destroy the healthcare system, no education, nothing, no homes, all of this for national security reasons. Collective punishment of millions of residents, 2.5, 2.3 million, whichever number statistic we look at. If it wasn't a concentration camp, then this flotilla should be able to reach the people. But the prison guards outside of this concentration camp, those enforcing it, they come into international waters and capture the civilians with the humanitarian aid and storm them with gunpoint. And anyone who tries to do this in the past has received the same thing and have been killed. Thankfully here, this has been widely publicized, this flotilla. The whole world has been watching. And for that reason, I believe the Israeli military is being extra careful. Now they released a sandwich delivery. They released a video showing themselves provide sandwiches and water to the volunteers of the flotilla that they arrested. And they're just trying massively to portray themselves as humanitarian when we know they're worse than the Nazis. All this to say, from this Palestinian and from all Palestinians, it is incredible what people are doing around the world, ordinary people and civilians, to fight for the human rights, for justice, just so that Palestinians get to live the life that people around the world get to walk and breathe and live in dignity. Now we have to watch and see what is done to these activists from the flotilla. And we're going to have to apply pressure on our governments to strongly condemn what the Israeli government has done. But I am so tired of the word condemn. We need to see action. We need to see our governments put sanctions on the state of Israel. And it's not just those targeted sanctions. We need wide sanctions. We need to expel the Israeli diplomats from our countries. We need to pull our ambassadors to the Israeli Zionist entity. What are they still doing there? We need to cut all ties with the Zionist regime and to fully support Palestine, to support Palestinians as it is almost liberated, and we need to break the siege. This flotilla, if anything, has brought more light than ever to the situation in Gaza, to the blockade that has been going since 2007, and it is time that we break the siege. Thank you for tuning in and listening on this episode of Pali Threads. All eyes on Palestine. With love and solidarity, Khalid.